gotta swim, swim for your life. Swim for the music that saves you when you're not so sure you'll survive. You gotta swim, and swim when it hurts. The whole world is watching. You haven't come this far to fall off the earth. The currents will pull you away from your love. Just keep your head above. I found a tidal wave begging to tear down the dawn. Memories like bullets, they fired at me from a gun. Cracking the armor, yeah. I swim for brighter days despite the absence of sun. Choking on salt water, I'm not giving in. Swim.
The day that I found out I had cancer, I want to say it was a pretty emotional day. My friend Ever was there with me at the time. We were visiting the ENT in Fairfield, and I had just taken a biopsy maybe 2 days before, 2 or 3 days, and the results had just come in. And he called us in, he sat me down, and he said, "Well, it turns out it's cancer." And when he said that, inside my mind, everything just kind of went pretty blank, you know. I couldn't believe what I heard, you know. It was, none of us would have thought of that. And he left the room, and I looked at Ever, and I just started bursting into tears, and Ever started bursting into tears too. And it was just, it's heartbreaking, I guess, you know. And he came back in, and he said, you know, "You have an appointment at Yale in about a week. Make sure you get to that appointment, it's important." And later on that day, we called up all my friends, my main friends and stuff.
I was at practice, and then after practice I look at my phone and I have like 10 calls from my friend Cara and like, you know, a bunch of texts just like, "I know you're at practice, but just come to my house right after, like Will has something really serious to tell us."
I kind of just told them all at once. It was really hard getting out, you know. It was like, "Guys, I have some news to tell you. I have cancer." And as soon as I said that, the room went extremely quiet. It was like time stopped. And simultaneously, all of us just burst into tears, and they all got up and hugged me.
My living room is like, there's like an L couch, and like we were all on the couch, and then Will was like in the chair by himself, like over in the corner. And like the first thing we all did was just like jump up and run and go give him like a humongous group hug, and like it was just really hard to like hear that like somebody who's like a brother to you is gonna like, you know, have to go through all that. And like, but all we kept saying to him was, you know, like, "We're here for you, we'll be here for you no matter what, like whatever you need, we're here." And it was heartbreaking to hear it.
It was shocking, and it scared us a lot.
It just kind of like broke me into pieces. It was just really sad. I was depressed because I didn't want him going through that. He didn't deserve it. But I'm glad he made it through.
The feeling slowly crept up on me. As like time went on, I saw he was getting like worse. He was going to the hospital, and yeah, like him, I got really depressed, and like it was hard for me to get up and go to school and like really concentrate on what I'm doing.
Will came in and sat down, and he's like this, he'll just drop by randomly, and he just came by and, you know, "Hey, what's up, how's it going? I have cancer." And so we talked about it a little bit, and he was very factual and very, you know, measured, and it was just a very strange way of bringing it. But how do you tell anybody that you have cancer? You know, I think he was still kind of playing out how to tell people. I mean, you drop a bomb like that, that's pretty big news, and I think he didn't want to upset people or shock people, so he just kind of said it very matter-of-factly.
It started off in September of last year, 2012, and me and Ever, we rode our bikes all the way to Fairfield to visit a long-time friend of mine, and After that night, I like lost my hearing in my right ear. It was really weird. It was like, it felt like a watery type feeling, like it was clogged almost. And I went to the Newark Community Health Center. I went there and I got checked out, and they said, well, everything looks fine inside your ear. We're just going to give you some antibiotics because we think that's just an infection inside there. So they gave me antibiotics that I was supposed to take for about a month. So I took those, and at the end of it, with my last pill, it was like nothing had happened, you know? And then all of a sudden one day I just kind of, it was really weird. I blew my nose and I could hear again. But I couldn't hear for like a month and a half, I want to say. And it was just like, oh my god, I can hear again. This is awesome. I don't have to listen to music in my left ear anymore. And then that seemed to resolve on its own, or maybe it was the antibiotics, who knows. But then all of a sudden my neck started feeling really stiff, and then I kind of noticed it was getting bigger. So I went back to the community health center and I told them, and then they gave me more antibiotics. And they said, oh, that's probably the infection maybe have spread to, you know, your neck. So I was like, okay, I took the antibiotics, and now it's end of November, and right now, you know, my neck's pretty big. It was like that big at the time. That was right around the time where I initially had left my house to live on my own, but I ended up going to live with Ever at his house. We kind of, like, you know, share a room. And when I was living with him, by the end of December, I want to say, my neck was huge. Like, it was like, it looked like someone like put their neck and put it in my neck and just kind of expanded. It was really gross. It was really like, you could feel it. And I remember going to Poinsettia, and I put on my suit that I had custom made, and I remember the collar when I put it on to button it up, it felt like it was choking me. I went to the appointment at Fairfield. He did a biopsy, which hurt a lot. There were about 5 needles to the neck and 1 inside the nose, and that's how you find out what you got. Very painful process.
So to give you an idea, this was a scout film of a CAT scan that Will had back in January. And so if this is a frontal view, the tumor in the nasopharynx basically started here and went through these sinuses into the tonsils, and you can see the soft tissue bulging of the neck. You can see how it had bulged up the neck. In fact, I recollect when we first started treatment, he normally wore a 14.5-inch collar size, and this was about 17.5 inches in circumference.
He has nasopharyngeal cancer. Cancer is a group of cells that grows at an excessive rate and grows abnormally fast. So in the cancer world, where our sort of treatment is aimed at slowing that growth and preventing it from growing.
And now if you go back, this is you're starting at the top of the head and you're coming down slowly. And let me just magnify that for a second. You can see these tumor masses all over in the neck, intensely lighting up, completely from front to back on both sides of the neck. And you can see how the neck is bulging out more on one side. This is the midline. The brain activity is normal, but then this is the tumor masses, and this is one side of the neck and that's the other side of the neck. And if you rotate it around, you can see all of this is tumor activity. Okay.
Treatment depends on this type of staging, but generally speaking, most of the treatment involves chemotherapy, which is a form of toxic medicine that's given into your vein. It's given sort of over a series of weeks, usually once a week maybe, or every 2 weeks on a basis. And the other type of treatment would be a radiation, where they would sort of radiate the area where the cancer is to stop the growth. The goal of chemotherapy, going back to that, so because cancer is a group of fast-growing cells, the goal of chemotherapy is to slow that growth, and it attacks that growth of those fast-growing cells. So what happens is the very first day that a patient comes in, they have what's called a simulation. And in that simulation, what we do is we get them in a treatment planning position. So for somebody that's getting treated in a mask, we actually make this mask and it's customized to them. We melt it and then it gets pulled over their face. Then they go upstairs for a CAT scan and their entire treatment is planned off of that CAT scan from the first day. Then our physics department and Dr. Patari come up with a plan for that patient and they give us marks that we plan to. So these lasers help us line up to those marks. We would set them up like this every single day and then do imaging. And then once they're all set up, this machine is programmed to treat them from multiple different positions. So for somebody like Will, the machine would just rotate around them as it treated them. It'll go all the way around in both directions. And then inside of the machine, this is the collimator. There are little blocks that come in. They're called MLCs. And those MLCs move as the whole machine, the gantry is moving around the patient to spare any normal tissue that we can, as well as get the optimum dose to the tumor.
Now you can imagine these little beamlets have to come in, treat all the cancer, and yet save the eyes, save the optic nerve, save the brainstem, the salivary glands. It's the most complex radiation treatment that there is in the field, and we were able to successfully treat all of that to the point that, in fact, you happen to come on a day where he had his follow-up PET scan, which shows that all of this disease has been arrested, and we're hoping that we'll be able to cure this boy. But we're hoping that in the next few weeks he'll be able to get his weight back. The other important thing is, as you know, he's a singer and we had to preserve his voice and larynx, and he's been able to do that very fortunately. But a lot of skill goes into it, not only the planning part, a lot depends upon people like Ashley and Jessica and all our therapists and our nursing staff to be able to take the patient from the start to the end and then bring him back to where he was before his illness was first diagnosed. So we're bringing little beamlets from the front, sides, etc. so they will all crisscross and go around basically like a 360-degree rotation around the face.
So this is one field and then there's another field. So all from different angles.
And each of them gives different intensities of radiation through little beamlets, so to speak. And the integration of all of that gives you this dose cloud, which you can now see in 3D when they can convert that into a 3D model, and you'll see how it'll wrap around.
So yeah, so the beams are all around.
And the way they look like this is because as they go in, they diverge. So it starts off like a flashlight, basically. The further out you go, it gets larger and larger. Wherever the beam enters and exits, there is some degree of dose, but the maximal intensity will be where the beam goes in and lasts for the longest time that is shining through. So if you go to color code it, those that are in the greener shade may be only 30 or 20% of the dose, and as you get more intense, the 100% of the dose will be concentrated by a different color on the scheme to give you the maximal dose to that tumor volume.
You see the cord, the spinal cord is a very sensitive structure. You see the dose is wrapping around the cord, giving the tumor the dose but sparing the spinal cord.
When the treatment first started, I was able to eat, just like everybody else. And they told me that it's going to get pretty rough, They said that eating is going to be like taking glass, crushing it, and, swallowing it. That's what they said. It wasn't like that. It was more like taking a chainsaw and ripping it down your throat and eating that way. I remember I took a sandwich, I think it was, I made, and I went to go eat it. It was in the morning. And when I swallowed it, the pain from that was just, oh my God, it was like I wanted to take it out from my throat and throw it, It was like, it was the worst pain that you could feel, I'd rather break my leg again. That was less painful than that. The feeding tube came in around the last 2 weeks of treatment. Everything hurt, even just to swallow, your own saliva, basically. It felt like you took hell, put the fire in your mouth, and put all the chainsaws and glass in there and combined it. It was just so painful. I wasn't eating because of it, and due to that, I didn't realize I was going to anorexic. You know, I didn't realize how much weight I actually lost. I knew that I was losing, 5 pounds here and there because of it, but when I stepped on that scale, I lost 10 pounds. I was 135, so I was like 125. And then when I went back the next day to step on the scale, I was down to 119, and I knew that was a problem. So I said, okay, you guys win, give me the feeding tube. Because initially I was against the feeding tube. I didn't want the feeding tube at all, The problem is with that is your body doesn't get used to it until, after maybe a week or two. So when I first started using it, I got really, sick, and I lost more pounds. I was down to 108. And I went to the doctor's office, and they looked at me and they're like, Will, you look like crap. And, I remember I looked at myself in the mirror, and I really saw, wow, I look like crap. And they put me into the hospital, and I called up all my friends and my family, and I said, hey, I'm in the hospital, because of this reason. And I remember they all came and saw me as soon as they heard, At first I thought, okay, this is cool, just straight hanging out, laying down in bed. You got TV there, and, a bunch of nurses coming in. Some of them were pretty cute. And, you got food rolling in, even though I couldn't really eat it. It was like, okay, the thought of it was cool. And then you got all this comfortable stuff. But after a while, you're just kind of sitting there, and my friends couldn't come see me during the day because they're all in school. So it was like I woke up at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, and I spent all this time just laying down and watching TV or thinking. And eventually I just started writing music and drawing in this little notepad that they gave me. And it was just, wow, this is boring. Really boring. And a lot of it was just that, drawing and making music and just sleeping, and then being woken up by a nurse to check your blood temperature and your head temperature every 2 hours or so. But then, like I said, Mr. Burr would come. A lot of my doctors from the hospital would come, and they made things pretty interesting.
My name is Donald Burr, and I am a chaplain at Norwalk Hospital, and I was recently assigned to Will's case there.
Mr. Burr was he was this random guy that came into my room and said, hey, do you want a chaplain? And I asked him, what's a chaplain? And he said, it's like a pastor, or just someone that comes in and prays, or just someone to talk to. And I said, yeah, sure, stop by whenever. And, I was thinking in my head, I was like, okay, whatever, he's just going to be another dude that's just going to come in and say a few words and then leave, But when he came in, I was like, hey, you're the guy from our school, aren't you? And he goes, what school you go to? I go, McMahon. He goes, yeah, I do go to McMahon. And I said, yeah, I see you around the hallways all the time. And that was the beginning of our friendship.
As it turns out, he actually was in school at a different school here in town when he was much, much younger. And we remembered those times when he was there as well.
As soon as, I guess, we made that connection that he goes to school with us, it was like I felt comfortable just talking to him. So I just I started off telling him the story of my life, like we're doing right now. And he sat down and listened the whole time. He spent an hour and a half or 2 hours just sitting there listening and talking. We laughed. And my friends were all there, and we all felt comfortable just talking, saying whatever, And he was at that point, he became one of the guys, And here's the crazy part. My grandfather, when he first came to this country, Mr. Burr, his family owned the shop or something that was across the street from where he lived. And when my grandfather was down here and Mr. Burr came in, he knew who Mr. Burr was. And they had this whole conversation about, wow, you're him. You're the guy that comes to the shop all the time. Wow. And it was at that moment he became family. If my grandfather accepts you and knows you and loves you, you're family. But that's just one way to become family. You become family in other ways.
Our paths cross, those 6 degrees of separation where we kind of know each other or know people that know other people and so on. But it was a very powerful moment that you were supposed to be here, Mr. Berg, and powerful for him, powerful for me, powerful for his family, to realize that someone was looking out for him, and that there was a spiritual connection for him and for them.
The prayer cloth, why it's so special to me is because we all know about the Sandy Hook incident in Newtown, right? That was a pretty big tragedy. And the prayer cloth came from Newtown, one of the churches. And it was actually a church I used to go to a long time ago. And they found out through my cousin about everything that went on. And the church laid down this prayer cloth over there, and everybody inside the church put their hands on it. And they, I guess, initially prayed over it. They said that the prayer cloth, what it symbolizes is, I think, a man took a piece of Jesus' robe or something like that, and I guess Jesus prayed over it, and when the guy had it with him, wherever his wound was, it healed him up. My free time before all this was, I'm not gonna lie, I was partying. My free time, every chance I got was just, partying. I'm not gonna lie, I used to smoke, I drank, and that was our free time and doing music. Me and Gage started a band. We came back home from school, dropped our bags, wrote music, practiced the music, and then we'd go smoke or drink. That's what we did. And then, now after, I realized, my health is more important than all that. So, I don't drink anymore and don't smoke anymore. So, I'll still be partying, it's just, more verbally. After, the cancer and the treatments, it was just like, I came to school 2 weeks ago, Monday, and as soon as I got into school, people they stopped what they were doing, they looked. And I remember I had my hood on, I had my hat on, and I had my glasses on, and I was afraid to go back to school of what people would think, how I looked, When I first came to school, my neck was burnt, it was still really, tan, and, it was really kind of gross, too, because, you see, parts of, the skin peeling off and stuff, and, new skin kind of growing, and I was afraid what people would say, how they would look at me, but, once I went to my locker and I came back down, people said, "Will?" And I said, "Yeah," and then they just came at me and hugged me and "Will!" And it was like that throughout the whole day, and then the office kept calling me down, different housemasters and guidance counselors, and I thought I was in trouble the first one. I was like, oh man, maybe I should have brought a note to come back to school. And then I went into Miss Wood's office and she said, "Welcome back, Will." And she came up and she gave me a hug, and she was telling me how much everyone missed me and was thinking about me. And then the second one that really caught me was Mr. Horowitz. Big bad Horowitz. He called me into his office and I was like, "Yeah, Mr. Horowitz?" And he's like, "Will, glad you're back, And he came and gave me a hug, and I was like, oh my god, I've never seen Mr. Horowitz. I didn't know he had feelings. And so he gave me this hug, and he was like, "I'm writing you a note so that way you can wear your hat and stuff whenever you want." And I was like, oh, cool, And then, guidance counselors. My main guidance counselor that I love is Miss Greatrix. She, called me down to her office as soon as she could, and she was like, "Will, you're back. How are you back already? This is incredible. You just finished treatment a week ago. You're supposed to be resting right now." I said, "I've been resting for 2.5 months. It's time for me to get up and do something."
The week before he was planning to come back to school, he was actually really sick, and we had sent a tutor to the house to start trying to catch him up, and she was just like, "You know what?" She emailed me, "He's too sick. He's been in the hospital. He can't come back. We're going to cancel tutoring." And I was like, oh my gosh. And we had been emailing a little bit back and forth, and all of a sudden it stopped, and probably because he was in the hospital. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is not good, this is not good. And then within a couple days, I get an email from Will, "I'm coming back to school on Monday." I'm like, what? And that's so Will, right there. Just, he's always gonna hit you with something you never expected. And sure enough, he came back to school on Monday and he looked fine and, you know, a little thinner, whatever. But yeah, he came, he stayed the whole day. He came the next day. I'm just like, wow, you know, who knew?
It was like lunchtime, and I was going outside just like to hang out with my friend Revan, and then my friend Nikki introduced me to this guy Will. It was kind of funny. He was like, I saw him, and like when I first saw him, I had a crush on Will.
I was throwing football and my arm was hurting. And I went to her and I said, "Hey, can you pull on my arm? Because it really hurts." And she said, "Yeah."
So I started pulling on his arm and like put my leg up to like pull his arm more. And I thought it was really funny because he made me laugh a lot because of that.
I looked at her and I was like, wow, she's really cute, you know? So I was walking in the hallways one day and then Revan came up and she said, "Hey, so I saw you had the eye for Mary." And I said, "No." I said, "I just, my arm was hurting. I just wanted her to pull it." And she said, "Uh-huh, uh-huh." And when I got home, I had this new friend request on Facebook and I was like, "Oh, okay, who is it?" It was like, "Mary." And I was like, "Oh, Mary is that girl." So I added her and then I messaged her and I was like, "Hey," and, you know, we're just talking.
After that, we basically just like hung out more and we ended up being really good friends.
That was the start of a very long, crazy friendship with her. After that, I asked her to junior prom. By then, we were like really good friends and stuff. I remember taking her to prom and she was so pretty that day. And I was like, wow, you know. Initially, I wanted to go out with her, but there's a lot of other things that kind of stopped us from doing that. So we just became really good friends, and now to this very day, she's like my sister, but she's like my best friend at the same time. And I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's the tattoo that me and Frank got, and we got this. I think the week after I got cancer, the day I actually went to Yale. The day before I went to Yale, I didn't know how I was going to get to Yale. I was actually in a bit of a situation. I was like, geez, how am I going to get all the way up there? You know, all my friends are in school and stuff. We have no car right now. I don't know how I'm going to get there. I have no money to take a train. And I called my doctor up at the community health center. And I was like, hey, I don't think I'm going to be able to make it because the taxi you guys said that was going to be paid for by the insurance. They don't take my insurance. And she was like, oh my god, how soon can you get down here? And I was like, I can get down there in 5 minutes. So I got down there in 5 minutes. And she goes, wait right here in this room. I'll be back in 10 minutes. So she goes, comes back in 10 minutes, and she reached in her pocket and she goes, here goes $200. It was cash. And she was like, you're going to get up there. You're going to take a train or a taxi or whatever, and you're going to get up there to Yale. I said, I can't take your money, you know, this is your money, you know. And she goes, no, you better take this. You have to get up there. This is very important, you know. This determines everything that's going to happen in the next couple months. So I took the money, and then the next morning, Frank called me and said, hey, man, I could take you. I cleared my schedule, so he ended up taking me. And we got there, I saw the doctors, you know. They shoved the camera down my nose, which hurt like hell. And it was pretty cool, though. You kind of see like everything that's inside there. It's kind of weird. But then she popped up. She came to the appointment up in Yale. And I said, hey, I have your money here. I actually didn't spend any of it. And she goes, oh, no, you keep that money. And I was like, wait, what? She goes, yeah, you keep that money. That's your money. Don't give it back to me. I was like, oh, okay. So we're over here. We're like, okay, I have an appointment at 4 o'clock. It's 9:30 in the morning. What do we do? So we're like, dude, we should go get some tattoos. I'm down for that. Frank's 18, I'm 18. We got Ezekiel in the car to just kind of keep us company on the way. So we're like, okay. So like, where are we gonna get the tattoos? So we're checking around all of New Haven and stuff, and we don't see any tattoo places that kind of interest us. So we're like, yo, let's go to New York. And we're like, dude, New York? We gotta get back here by 4 o'clock. It's like 10:30 right now. And it's like, you know how fast I drive, man. I'm like NASCAR at this car. And we actually ended up having Ever's car that day. And we're on our way back to Connecticut, and we call up Ever, like, yo, what are you doing? Nothing, man, I woke up late, I'm ready to go to school. no man, you're not going to school, we're going to New York. And he's like, we're going to New York? Why? Man, we're going to get tattoos. And he's like, oh, okay. So he's waiting, I think it's at like a McDonald's or something, and we're like, we'll be there in 10 minutes. Oh, where are you? We're in New Haven. You're not going to get here in 10 minutes from New Haven. And Frank's like, oh, you want to bet? Hangs up the phone. We're driving like 100 down all the way back to Norwalk. And we call up Emery, he's like, yo, where are you? Well, we're in Fairfield. Dude, it's already like this, like the minute that turned 10 minutes and we're in Fairfield. Sorry, we're gonna be a little bit late. We'll be there in like 4 or 5 more minutes. Frank hits the gas, we get to the McDonald's, we pick him up, and then we're on our way to New York. We get to Port Chester, we find this place called House of Ink. You know, we get in there, we show them our ID, and we're like, yo, what are we gonna get? We're gonna get a smiley face on our wrist that has X's on the eyes and the tongue going right there. And me and Frank got it because it's just like, it's always been our sign since middle school. The circle represents the world, the X's represent you're blind to what's going to happen to you in the next second or so, and then the face that's like, you know, tongue, it just kind of represents that even though you're blind throughout all this, you can still find some way of smiling, you know, taking control of your life. And that's what that means. And then that writing down there, kind of see, it all represents the people that took care of me throughout all this. So it's Frank, Zeke, Ever, Mary, Cara, they're all on there. Mary, she told me that she wanted to go take pictures one day, and then she said that she forgot something inside her locker. So we came back to school. This is like maybe a week before I actually came back to school. And then we went up to her locker, and then she got the book out, and you know, I wasn't even thinking at the time. I was like, oh man, you know, you got the new yearbook, this is cool. So I started looking through it, and I was looking through it over here and stuff, and she was like, you should look in the front. And then instead of looking in the front over here, I looked like over here where it said Brian McMahon. She's like, no, you idiot, look over there. So I looked over here and it said William Flores, and I was like, oh my god, this is my yearbook. And then I felt awesome because she knew I wanted the yearbook so bad and stuff, and I was like, oh my god, you got me a yearbook. And I thank everyone who signed something on here, or you know, got together and got this for me. I thank Miss Wolf, I thank everybody, and it just means so much to me because these are memories that I'm going to have forever. A lot of people would think the most difficult part of dealing with the cancer is the pain that you go through, because what a lot of people actually don't know is the type of cancer I had, since it's head and neck cancer, it's the worst treatment you could possibly go through just because it's in this general area, and a lot of it has to do with your neck, you know, and like I said, the burning and stuff before, and all the chainsaws and glass. The worst part was actually the mental part. What ends up actually getting to you is you not being able to do your everyday things, such as go outside and, you know, do whatever, run around, go to school, hang out with friends, party like you used to. In general, have your old life back. And that was really a big part of like what got to me. What hurt me the most was just not being able to do everything I used to be able to do before. Not being able to eat foods. You don't understand how long I've spent just sitting there on my computer watching all those food things on TV, you know. It was just like, I want that food, but I can't eat it right now. And I think that's what kept driving me, was friends and food, and just being able to just do things normally again. That's what really just kept me going. If I didn't have any friends and I had no desire for food, I would have been done.
He's a tough kid. You know, going through treatment like this at 18 with chemo and radiation is really stressful. It's tiring, it's exhausting, and he always had a good attitude throughout it and would always try to make light of the situation.
Obviously, he's a really strong individual to be able to handle what he's handled, and let me tell you, when he said he was coming back to school, I couldn't believe it, because there have been times I thought this was the last place he'd want to be, and then he was actually excited about coming back to school, and he definitely is driven to finish his high school diploma and get on with his future, and I think that drive is really one of his strengths as well.
We did this poetry project, and everyone wrote their own, pieces, and they were allowed to present them, and he actually sang his, which was really cute. He's really a good singer, and he's like in a band and all that stuff. So he sang his, and then actually, when he came back recently, my class had literally asked maybe 4 days before, 5 days before, where he was, and one girl said, "Miss, I heard he has cancer. Is it true? It was on Facebook," and all this stuff. So we said, okay, well, if it's on Facebook, then I guess we can say, like, if that's what you heard, then kind of go with that without like violating any secret laws and stuff. So anyway, when he came back a few days after that, he walked to the door, and he was like just a couple seconds later than everybody else, and like everyone looked up and they all started clapping. It was really cute. Yeah, he was really cool about it. He said, "Glad to be back. What'd I miss?" Like.
Me and Gage have actually been talking for about 2 years. We've known each other for a while. We've known each other maybe 4 years, but we never really got together.
I knew you, I just never talked to you.
Yeah, that's true. Like, we knew of each other, but we never talked to each other. And when we finally did, we were like, "Dude, you play guitar? Dude, you sing?" "Yeah." "Yo, why don't we form a band one day?" So then we're just talking, and we're just talking for a whole year. And then one day he calls up, he's like, "Yo, man, I'm trying to start a band." And I'm sitting here in my bed at like 7 in the morning. About time. I've waited 2 years for this. 2 long years for you to ask me this. So as soon as he asked me, I quit my old band and I went and joined him, because I had like a certain feeling that me and him would actually make it somewhere. The original name was We Killed the Natives, but after I got the cancer and stuff back in like late January, we decided to change the name. We changed the name to Born from Ashes because we knew that after I got out of the hospital and I started to gain my voice back, that I wasn't going to sound the same, that I was going to end up sounding different. So we wanted to find something that would represent a new band starting. And Born from Ashes, the story behind that is when a phoenix, when a phoenix dies, it goes into the flame, and then from the flame, the ashes of the bird, a new one rises, much stronger and much more beautiful. And that's the story behind that. All of us have so many emotions that we want to get out, and we talk to each other about it. And it's like, okay, we're all talking about it, but it's just sitting there, So me and Gage, we have a lot of feelings, believe it or not, Me and this man, we sit there for hours, literally hours, in his room or his basement, wherever, writing music, and we won't let anything out, onto a CD or anything, or won't even practice anything unless we actually have the feeling that it's going to be a great song. Like, it's really easy to write, a song, just write a few lyrics, sing it nice, but what's the point if you don't have that feeling that it's going to be a great song, it's just going to be another song.
I'm completely impressed in his ability to share his feelings through his music and through his relationship with his friends, who again are a solid support system for him.
He's very confident and he has a lot of pride, but at times people will be like, "Oh, he's so prideful and stuff," but it's like, that's Will, that's how he is, and it's good that he's that way because he's happy with who he is. He's happy with what characteristics and what friends he was given.
I mean, he's probably one of the strongest people I've ever met. Not just because of what he's gone through in the past, year or so, but from everything that, I've talked to him about that he's gone through. He's just an amazing person, and I'm really glad to have him as one of my friends and, as like a brother to me.
He has a really good outlook on life. He can make any situation bright. He'll be sitting in his hospital bed and he'll be like looking like crap, but he'll be the biggest smile on his face, like make your day perfect. So.
I mean, I can't have a better friend than him. He's like I said, he's like my brother. He's more than just a friend. He's family. He's He's almost like blood. But it just means a lot. I don't know. It's hard to explain. It's just that's how much it means that words can't describe it.
One of the things when I was in the hospital, a lot of people brought me like cards. Like this one's from Emma, and you know a bunch of other family ones. I didn't bring all of them because it's like as big as the yearbook. Ezekiel's girlfriend, which is like one of my close friends also. She's also like my sister. But her, Brooke, and I forget who, they made me this huge like thing, and they have this like joke where they call Frank Frankulus or something like that, and they call me Wilhelm. It's like German or something like that. It has like a microphone and stuff. This is small. Ice cream and milk, but this is actually my cancer colors. It's actually white and maroon type of colors, and this was actually it was the last hope, basically. This is the last thing that gave me hope to keep on fighting through the last 2 weeks, because it came from my doctor, Lauren, and just what it says in the back, it's life is full of choices, choose hope. And I thought about it while I was laying in bed one day, and it was like, hope. What does that word actually mean? You know, we hear hope a lot. You know, we hope you feel better. Oh, I hope I get this for Christmas. What hope means to me is keep fighting. There's always something there to keep thinking about. There's always something there to keep you going. Don't ever let go of your memories. Always have hope, no matter what.
He's been very clear about wanting to sort of remain like every other student. He doesn't want to be like, oh, Will who has cancer, you know? So he's been really like very normal and very easy to work with. He was asking like about the prom and like if he had missed the tickets and all that stuff. So I think he's excited that he's still going to be able to do like the senior things. So.
You guys ready to party out there? Like it's 2014.
Alright, so describe what just happened.
I won Prom King somehow. I don't really know. It was pretty surprising. They were announcing it. They said, we're going to announce the king of the prom. And I was holding Mary. And I was holding like real tight. I was like, oh my god, my name was on the list. What if I actually won? And she was like, I don't know, there's a lot of people out there and stuff. But she had like a lot of like, she was like, you're going to win, you're going to win. And in my head, I was like, I ain't going to win. No way. And they said, Will Flores. And then it kind of rang in my ear for a little bit. And I was like, oh my god. And I didn't know which way to go, like through the crowd, or if I should go around the crowd. So I just went around, then they forced me like inside. And then when he put the crowd on me, I was like, oh my god. You know, I turned around and I looked at everybody. And I saw in everyone's eyes, they were like, woo! You know? It was amazing to have this. I can't believe I'm actually going home with it.
Dust. It's time to shake it off, gotta move along, you must. And keep your head strong, I'm gonna take off the rust. I will reveal you. Miles may grow inside you like 100 highway lights. open up your heart and make you realize you've grown, you've grown.